It is necessary for the recording of sound to convert the sound waves to corresponding changes in light. The sound waves produced by my voice are transmitted through the air to the microphone, where these sound waves are converted to changes in an electric current. These variations in the electric current are then amplified and used to control the light. This varying beam of light falling on the photoelectric cell produces variations in the electric current, which are directly proportional to the variations in the light beam. The sound track. As the varying electrical current in the photoelectric cell is small, a vacuum tube amplifier is required to increase it to the point where it will operate a loudspeaker. Sound track.
Welcome to the Occult Rejects. In this episode, we'll be finally wrapping up Tantra and the Qabalah, and I got, obviously, since he was on the first two episodes, I got Jen the Ninja on with me again. Thank you so much, bud. I've had a really good time covering this topic with you. Well, really, you're covering the topic, and I'm just learning. I really appreciate that. I appreciate all the time that you've actually spent. I mean, this turned into 3 episodes. You know, that was some work you put in, so I really appreciate it, my man.
Well, I really appreciate that you invited me on, and obviously to do 3 episodes is like not really work for me because it's it's really fucking cool.
That's right. It's like you got like what 10 and 11 for Lee's. Like 3 is nothing now.
I mean, but we did different styles, so it's all good, right? Everybody got their, you know, I did a little revelation in both series, so everybody got a little different content.
No, I think that's great. That's great. And you want to let everybody know where they can find your stuff, or where they contact you or anything?
Sure. So I'm on Twitter at Wukong Reborn, WUKONG Reborn. I'm on Insta at Threshold Saints, one word. And I will have an RSS feed coming up in the next couple of weeks. I just did an episode with Robbie Marks that dropped on his RSS feed, Meta Mindcast. So for now, that's where people can check me out.
Awesome. That's great. And I will throw all those links in the bottom as usual. And guess we're really going to just continue from where we were last time. And here we go. I'll pull up those pictures. And yes, that is exactly where we left off. So whenever you're ready, sir.
Sure. So really quick, I'm just going to run through the tree with the numbers because I didn't give the numbers the first 2 episodes because we just got into it and it's okay. But I just think it's really interesting to give the numbers and then also to give the birds, because I think once we make our way down to Hode, that will really catch people's interest if they understand like some of the more post-war occult works. I think it will really blend in with that. So I'll just do it really quickly. So we'll start from number 1 is Kali. So she is the time of the destruction of time, and her bird is a vulture. Then 2, we have Tara. So you see that's Tara on screen right now. She is the time of manifestation and also the time of perception. So seeing, understanding at the same time. And her bird is a green-blue peacock. Then we have 3, which is Tripura Sundari. So that would be at Mercury or Hode. And she rides, or she is a hawk. So that's her association. And 4 is, sorry about that, Bhuvaneshwari at Malkuth. So she is the time as space. So she is associated with a chicken because it's like the beginning, right? She's a chicken. So householder. So 5 is Bhairavi at Yasod, which is associated with the moon. And then she is a black or an albinistic peacock. So she can go either way. And then 6 is Chinnamasta at Kether. So she is the time of destruction and the time of creation, both of them at the same time. So she is associated with a golden eagle. So 7 is Dhumavati at Kether, and she is the time after destruction and the time before creation.
Oh, I like that.
So she is also associated with crows kind of interesting.
It's like the death and rebirth, really, right?
Right. And then you have 7
in the middle of it. That's weird. That's wild.
Oh, so 8 is Baglamuki at Gavura, so Mars, and she is associated with cranes. And then 9,
not for nothing, and then not to get too conspiratorial. Even Ukraine, I even question like that word.
I mean that is like a whole series in and of itself.
I was even gonna go like my opinion, and I'm just saying this is just my opinion. I think you God from Wu-Tang, the U is like the polarity. And like, first off, I think a lot of them are occultists anyway. Not saying in a bad way.
No, Wu-Tang are 100%.
So like, you got God, and then you got Ukraine, and the crane is a bird, and like again, getting back to Thoth and the flight, it's just like back to birds and like polarity or a magnet. I always say a lot. I think electromagnetism is huge with magic. Really, it just seems very weird to me.
No,
it's like is this a play off of fucking words?
Okay, we'll save that for when we do Gabura, because that will be really interesting, because I think you'll really like what her powers are.
Awesome. All right, I'll shut up now and let you go.
No, it's okay. You can
jump
in anytime. So 9 is Matangi at Tippereth. So her bird is a green parrot. So then we have Kamala Mika at 10. Netzach, who's 10, and her bird is an owl. And then obviously 11, we said it was Bhairava. So of the 10, there's also 10 Bhairavas, or 9, but there's a secret one. So his bird is also a crow, but all 3 birds, like the vulture of Kali, the golden eagles of Chinnamasta, and the crows of Dhumavati, they can all be there on the Mahasmashana with him. So when he appears with that, but his association really is with dogs, so more than birds. But anyways, that's still interesting. So I didn't go through all the times, but anyways, I gave like a good, so everyone is an embodiment of time, and I think I've said it pretty much when we've done the images, but sometimes I forget. But so usually the male consort is the embodiment of time, but he's not really the embodiment of time. She's really the embodiment of time. She's like the living moments of our perceptual understanding. And like I said, in Buddhism, the female consort is the wisdom consort. So she's always associated with more of the internalities of our understanding of Tantra or understanding of the texts, rather than the males are methods. So they're more of us doing the ritual, doing the practices.
The energy expended.
Exactly.
Was another thing I have noticed, and I think Lisa had also brought it up, actually, because I had mentioned something to her. And I wish I could remember everything that she had pointed out to me, because I was like, holy shit, there might be something behind this. With a lot of animals that are kind of used as a symbol, like I'll use the peacock as an example. It is the male that actually is the one that like has all the beauty and all the shit in its tails and does its whole little like thing. Like, it's actually kind of like the thing that would be associated with the female is literally the male. It's just weird how it's like, I don't know. It was just weird how like she was pointing out like a couple of animals that it's like that animal that's used a lot tends to be the more beautiful one out of the male and female, which seems weird. I just wonder, like, is that some sort of way of mixing both?
Well, I think that's true. And I think that also, like when we did the cosmology in the first episode, we looked at a picture of the 10 Bhairavas. Well, there's 9, but in that picture, there's 10. And so every one of them rides a mount, a vahana of an animal. So I didn't know if I was going to say this, but I'll just say it because I think it's interesting. I wonder if during like the really tantric period in Kashmir, like 5th till 16th century, maybe they were using those animals for Pashubali, like animal sacrifice, to access the time kings, because that's what they are. They're time kings. So maybe like Robbie was talking about when I recorded with him about the 10 door kings. So there's some kind of like a Sumerian myth about 10 door kings. And I just wondered, maybe that's similar. Maybe there's an element of 10 men gathered together. They each represent that Bhairav in one kind of way. And they use the animal. Maybe it's not even about animal sacrifice. Maybe the animals are just symbolic of certain ritual implements or certain ritual actions.
Yeah, I mean, it really, you have no idea when it comes to.
That's the thing, and like especially with Tantra, it's so layered, and then also there's so many different schools, like different sampradayas will teach different kinds of formulations of the tantric inner outer secret.
I mean, that's another thing I just want to add, like to what you're even saying about like was it animal sacrifice, that it was its symbolism. I think kind of like even what you and me were almost kind of like talking about like off the air. I do think a lot of times like neither stuff that looks sexual or like horrific, which I think I had said this prior with you already because some of the artwork, I think is thrown in there to make you like just write it off as something else and not look at it.
No, I agree.
I think it's almost like a way of like scaring you away from understanding something.
See, that's the thing. It either scares you away or it attracts you.
Yeah, you're like, wait, what is
right?
Yeah. I was that one.
So
the weirdness attracted me.
I definitely agree that there is like an element of like transgressivity. Like when you look at the images, they're very transgressive, especially if we were living in medieval times, right? Like where eating with your left hand would be completely taboo, where animal sacrifice would be completely taboo, where sex outside of marriage would be completely taboo. So there are kind of showing you these transgressive actions. But like, sorry, go ahead, MYP.
This is a perfect example. I'm sorry, really. Well, at least we're only in 10 minutes in. There was something on the news. This is a perfect example, and it just happened recently. And I don't think it was on the news. It was like a commercial or something. No, I think it had to be on the news because it was real. It was supposedly real. Some lady was like dressed up like as like almost like a really like to us would be a creepy, scary clown. Especially if you don't like clowns, I guess it's gonna be creepy anyway. And they had like a child or something, like a very young baby that was like running up to it and like all excited and like thinking it was cool looking. And my wife is like, how the fuck is that kid like not creeped the fuck out? I said, nobody's told the kid yet that that's creepy looking.
That's what it is. It's like because
the kid hasn't been told yet what's right or wrong, what's creepy, what's bad.
That's right. So remember this story when we get to Hode, because this will again come up. This idea of the childlike innocence, viewing Maya, viewing the illusion. That is so important to that sphere. And also just to Tantra in general. Like that kind of approach is one of several approaches that you can take with all the spheres. That kind of childlike wonder without putting conceptual ideas into the spheres. And like in like the older Qabalahs, like I talked about last episode, that is the conceptual idea, is not to give God more attributes. It should be God without attributes, God without quality.
But just start giving it attributes, you're deciding what it is and isn't anymore.
Exactly. And so the tantric idea is totally non-dual. It's supposed to be like you reject these kind of binary right and left ideas. You're supposed to, especially in Buddhist tantra, you're supposed to aim for the middle pillar, the middle path.
That's what that's what War Games was all about. The movie.
Yeah, 100%.
The only way to win is not to even play the game.
No, that is what it is. It's kind of like, well, again, when we get to Hode, this will be another really important idea, because in a way that she is the goddess of discourse, of rhetoric. So her arrow is able to pierce through the dialectic in a way, and it gives us more ability to understand and control what is going on through our speech. So I think that's quite interesting. Like we were talking about pre-recording about like the war fervor is just so potent right now, and so everybody's like really into it and like just like war porning. And I just think that that's just not, people that don't understand themselves, people don't understand what they want, people don't understand, like, this has nothing to do with us. Like, let's just focus on ourselves, our like where we live, our own families.
I think I posted it today on Twitter. It's just a side effect, I think, with the discontent within yourself.
Yeah, that's 100% what it is. Because once you refocus and you kind of like Like I do a
when
daily
you do your
practice,
will, it doesn't
Yes.
seem to matter as much.
Yes, because it doesn't. Because how can that affect you, and how can you change it too?
That's-
Like, there's nothing we can do. There's literally nothing we can do. Either way, So,
Especially with
like,
something where
does
it's
it
like
even
it's,
matter?
it's not even like here. Unfortunately, you know what I'm saying? Like
That's different, right? Like if
Yeah.
it was here, then there's like that's a discussion. But when it's like you can't see it, or maybe a better way to describe it is you can't. The images that you receive aren't necessarily on the ground footage or on the
It-
ground, like it's not necessarily, it's mediated.
then
That's a good way.
the one wild thing about it too, if you really think about it, and then we'll move on because it's just touchy subject. Maybe I don't want to talk about it too much, but the one wild thing I see, it's just like it's like people who are so far away from the situation are getting more riled up than the people involved in it.
That's,
Like how is that happening?
I think it ties all into like the age of Aquarius and all of that. Like, I feel like if they distract us with war, because war is like, I think we talked about him in the first and the second episode, but war is is what is produced between the dialectical synthesis of Shiva and Shakti. So when you put the upward facing triangle and the downward facing triangle together, inside you get war.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's really it. I
So,
mean, that's
but that doesn't
the funny
mean-
thing is, it's like it's so simple. It's like showing a collision in itself. And
Yeah, but it doesn't have war. It can just be energy. It can be untamed energy.
Energy changing
if
is
the-
chaos and war, in my opinion. Just it changing.
Exactly. No, you're totally right. You're totally right with that. And just like how fire is like it's both has an element of destruction and creation. And all of them really do. All of them can be destructive and creative. That is kind of the point.
Yeah, I've even
That's
brought that
why
up
I'm
with
not-
with fire. If you think about it, you could burn something and turn it into smoke, or you can evaporate water. It's very alchemical if you think about it.
No, it's very alchemical. And
And it's like the
You know,
tool
like-
for the alchemical change, if you think about it.
well, that's in like in a tantric way, Agni is not a god of fire. He is like the transmutation of matter into a substance to another world, to another realm, maybe to the deities if you want to personify them in that way. So just like how tantrics, like for Tara, so she's standing on the corpse. She's doing a corpse sadhana in the picture on what is my right hand side. So someone who's viewing the screen, it's on your right hand side, the blue top with the red and then the orange. So she is standing on a corpse. That could be the practitioner. That could be you. So what is she doing? She's bringing you into her sphere of influence, into her kind of conceptualization. You are supposed to be the sadak, the upasaka, underneath her feet. Because then she is the supernal power. You have given up yourself to the great manifesting mother, because that's what she is. She is the star who self-combusts, the cremation fire of the corpse, who then goes out. Because a star, like we said, is not supposed to stay here. It is supposed to self-combust. It is the light, the sound, and the color, and your understanding of it when you're viewing it. But it's while it's exploding, it's not so the story is when she manifests, she comes down, manifests because we need her. We pray, we say, okay, oh goddess, like come help us. And she is like the mother, so she hears our prayer and she's like, I have to come down. So she manifests down into the smashana, into the crazy cremation ground where we all live. And she is the great witch. Like, she is basically the Isis of the pantheon, if you want to say it like that. She's the Dakini. She's the Dakini mother. So she's the mother who lives in the Samashana. She's pregnant, Lambo Darai. I think we talked about this last time. She's pregnant with the god of war, just like we talked about. The meeting of Shiva and Shakti, but she's pregnant with him. But she has Ganesh also lives on the cremation ground with her. But Shiva is on his own. He's doing his own tantric practices away from them. But she's doing this so she can reunite with Shiva, if you want to think of it in a more Shakta Tantra way. Her goal is to become the Upasaka that is greater than Shiva, more powerful. so they can reunite, because Shiva doesn't really recognize her when she is just a goddess in heaven. He even says that. He says, I'm not interested in a frivolous princess. So she says, I'm going to transform myself. I'm going to undergo a theurgic process. I'm going to undertake the journey of the supernal triad. And so, just like I said, like every aspect of the goddess has a consort of Bhairava, as well as an association with the avatars of Vishnu. So it's the hero, the teacher, and the witch at every sphere. And so I'll just say, like, in my understanding of, and this is just using the Mahavidyas, obviously you can take it in a more Buddhist or even a more Shakta Tantra way. And there are different goddesses you could place in, but I don't want it to sound like I'm adding correspondences. I think that the list of 10 that they give is actually like a very good list. I think it's complete. I think that is equivalent to the Sephira. And I think that it's a unified tree. It's just the idea of putting the Chippolithic tree alongside of it. So you have 7 sins that arise in every sphere. You have 7 boons that arise in every sphere. And you have 7 wisdoms that arise in every sphere. So every sphere is really complete, but they make it very difficult to get to. And we have to undergo so many different kinds of practices, initiations, processes to get there. So they don't make it easy, but it's all doable. But and in the internal of the sphere, they're all God. So, it's a perceptual layer of understanding. That's why she's the witch. She's able to transmute our understanding to alchemically change it, you could say. So anyways, we'll keep going, but no, you can see she's the mother of the milk ocean. She has the famous Shakti Peeth, which is where the 51 pieces of the goddess fell when she was dismembered. And so Shakti Peeth is where the forehead or the third eye Devi fell, and they built a cremation ground on top of the temple. And so they often use corpse fire as like a major component in puja there. So they have like a living flame that probably comes from like a natural gas source underneath the temple. And they will use that flame to light the cremation fires for the corpses, but then they will also use that flame to light for pujas. So it's that idea of the transgressive and the orthodox, sort of like, it doesn't matter. There's no distinction. It's all one thing.
It almost has like a Nuit feel to it as well, going by some of the stuff you've said.
Well, I mean, she's the mother of the milk ocean. I mean, she definitely is like the water, but she's also, this is interesting. So she, in her Tibetan form, which is where the Indians got her practice. So people will not really associate Tibetan Buddhism with like the extremely wrathful, like left-handed practices of Shakta Tantra necessarily. But in the story of Tara specifically, one of the Indian saints was trying using Dakshinacharya, so the right-handed method. So he went to the cremation ground and he was doing the right-handed methods, which is the 4th layer. So Tantra has 7 layers. That's the 4th. The right-handed methods, you doing pujas with the right hand, that's the 4th layer. So he's sitting there, he's doing it. Supposedly he did it for 3 lifetimes. And he was unable to have a vision of the goddess. So one night he says, I'm giving up. I've spent like multiple lifetimes doing this. Like it's not working for me. So then she comes to him in the dream and she's like, you need to go to Tibet and find the star, because that's what her name means. Tara is the star that fell from heaven, and they kept my practice alive at this place. So he goes off to Tibet, gets an initiation, and then he brings it back to India. So that's a very interesting story. And just like I know I said when I did the numbers from the Todala Tantra at the very beginning, that Kali was one. But in Tibetan Buddhism, in some texts, Tara is one. Tara is the one who is all of them. But just like Kali can be all of them, just like Tripura Sundari can be all of them. So it really depends. It depends on your school, depends on your perspective. I know Western magicians love Kali because she has the most ferocious reputation. But when she's a Mahavidya, she's just the destruction of time. She's materialization and dematerialization. But she's not the supernal mother. in this formulation. So I think that's also interesting. But Tara can be. And Tara is also the Buddha of the next age. So I think that's also very interesting.
I think I think a lot of times they have forearms anyway. Or I could be wrong, but even like the blue and the forearms almost is like kind of like, to me, would be like the feminine energy, maybe keeping like chesed in hold or something like that.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. That's why she's pregnant. So she has the waters of creation inside of her stomach.
Abundance too. Chesed would be like an abundance of energy too.
Exactly. And then the blue lotus, which represents the ability to not only speak the bijas, which is more of a pink lotus, but it's also the ability to understand the bijas, understand the magic, understand the mantra. So be able to speak the spell into creation. Oof. And then the scissors are to cut there's multiple meanings, obviously, but one way to understand the scissors is to cut the birth cord of Shiva. Because remember we said, like, in Chesed, or with Tara, God is just a baby. He's the childlike God. He's not full in and of himself because he just drank the poison of the churning of the supernal waters. So the Rudra, Shiva, is the one who emanates creation through his own ego, through his own bullshit. So he's sitting on the cremation ground at death. He's just emanating all of this. He's cycling through his fear, his anger, his lust, all of the things, all his feelings. So he's cycling through them, and then we are created. So she comes down to sever the attachment, to sever the umbilical cord. That's the word I was looking for, umbilical cord. So, and then the cutlass is to sever the outer meaning is to kill any asura that appears in the cremation ground, so kill any demon in the cremation ground. But again, because she lives in the cremation ground, she is continuously surrounded by different denizens of the cremation ground, like vampires, zombies, all of those witches, dakinis, all of them. So that's also very interesting. But we can go to the next one if you want, NYP.
There we go.
Okay. I didn't know that I would enjoy doing this one, but when General Lee and I did it, it was a really interesting episode. Like, really strange things happen. So this is Bagalamukhi. So her name means crane-faced. So she's the crane-faced goddess. But there's another way to translate her name, but it's not my preferred translation, but I'll say it because it also makes sense. So she is also the horse bridle face. And you can see she's holding the tongue of the Asura that she slays while she is on the waters. Well, I guess we would say it's the waters of Mars. And that's sort of what she is.
It could be like almost like Scorpio.
That's what she is. And she's even holding her mace ready to strike, her hammer. So her time is the time of the battlefield, but it's also the time before time takes motion. So the transformation from potential energy into kinetic energy, like a tsunami, like a landslide, because those things don't take place all in one go. There's multiple processes for it to get there. That's right. So things
it actually gains more momentum as it goes on sometimes.
That's right.
Until something stops it.
So she's a very popular Indian goddess, actually, like very, very popular, quite unknown in the West, but very popular because she is one of there's two. So Matangi, when we get to Tippereth, she's also very occult, but Bagalamukhi is also very occult. Because you don't have to also be a tantrika to access her. Her sphere is relatively easy to get there, but she requires a lot of attention because she's very severe and she's very harsh. And you can also say that she is the mother of harsh speech. So in one way of thinking, if you start from the bottom of the tree and work up, the goddess at Hod shoots her fire arrow upwards. Bagalamukhi, who's gold, which is the transmutation of red or fire into gold as a metal. And so she's also associated with turmeric. So that's kind of why her color is like that. But she's obviously very she has a very martial nature. And there's a famous story of a 14th century king who performed like 1,008 bull sacrifice during a battle over 9 days. So that's also very interesting. But more now, she's invoked for the court cases. So she's very much a court case goddess. And why she is a court case goddess is because she can shut up your enemies. She doesn't allow them to speak. She kind of is the interchange between the heart and the mind before it comes out of your mouth.
It's almost very like silence as well.
Yes, exactly. The setting sun, like that's exactly what it is. It's, and she also can speak the powers of the reversing words. So like if you're on the battlefield, someone is going to strike you with a sword and they're holding it above you. Her power is to kind of flip that around. So you're holding the sword above the enemy. Just like the battlefield can also be a courtroom, because a courtroom is a kind of battle, right? Yeah. And it's a kind of discursive battle. And her power is to purify speech from just understanding into the words that you'll speak into a puja, like a liturgical words. So you have no delay in between your spoken prayers or your spoken whatever you're doing and your thought process. So those two things are aligned at the same time. So her concept really is delay. So I think that's pretty good for her, unless you have anything you want to ask.
No, I actually, the one on the left, I think is like some amazing stuff in there. Just real quick, I'll just, at least at the top, I was questioning, was that like the sun and the moon, or to me, it also like, I hate to go back to my eyeball stuff, but I do say I think your eyes are going to kind of look like that for magic. One dilated, one not.
So I totally agree with you. And Tantra, obviously, because I love Tantra, so I always say it provides the answer, and it does in this case. So the sun and the moon are not just like if people look at like a Masonic pillars, this is exactly the same thing. The sun and the moon are on the right and the left pillar. They're not the supernal sun. And so that they're also assigned to Shiva. So not Shiva, but Bhairava. So one of the Bhairavas is the sun and one of the Bhairavas is the moon. So it's the time of the day and the time of night. So you could think of it exactly like that. And it's his eyes. That's what it is. I mean, when the universe took form, that's what it is. It's the sun and the moon. And we usually add them to the luminaries, like add them to the other planets, but really they're considered very distinct. In Tantra. They're considered closest to us. So more accessible, and and Mars also has a slightly different attribution. Like Mars has more of that malefic attribution in Western astrology, but not in Vedic astrology. He's considered to be very lucky, and his name is actually Mangalam, which means lucky. So it's the fire to change things. It's the fire of force. So
the desire, the passion within sometimes.
Exactly. And you could even say that she is the transmutation of fire because she is like the golden oven or the golden alembic, sort of like an alchemical sort of vessel that holds water, but when you apply fire to it, it transmutes the water into something else. So anyways, we can go on to the next one if you want.
Thank you. That's great.
Okay, so this one is Matangi. So she is the goddess of assigned to Tippereth, and she is obviously, her power is to conquer any bad position of the sun in astrology, like the physical sun. But you'll notice actually she is like a peridot green color, so that actually fits the Qabalah tree quite well. And I think also with the red and the gold, and interestingly, so she is a Chandali. So a Chandali is an outcast, but it doesn't mean someone who's like a low-caste person. It means someone who's a tribal person and has a secret meaning of someone who is beyond convention. So she's closely related to Tara at Chesed, in a way of thinking she is Tara, but she's called Nila Saraswati, so the blue-green Saraswati. Whereas Saraswati is white and rides a swan, and is the goddess of Vedic learning. Matangi is the goddess of the time of performance of the tantric performance. So she's playing her sitar, so she plays the magical vibrations of the lila, of the play, of the illusion.
Almost like a female Pied Piper.
That's very much what she is. She's in charge. She's the one. She's considered to be the prime minister. So if you want to give them like that is how they're described in the Lalita Tripura Tantras. She's the prime minister of heaven because she conducts all the other planets. But also in a way of thinking, you could say they all kind of coalesce into her.
Well, what's weird? I was gonna say this. This does kind of go into like the 7 seals, and I do wonder if like sometimes that has to do with like breaking off of like the seals or the planetary energies on those spheres on the Tree of Life. That's a whole other thing. But I was gonna say I do find her on the right very interesting because of just what she's wearing on her head. I have seen used so many times in other depictions, especially sometimes with the Scarlet Whore. Her cup looks very much like that.
Well, okay. So remember that when we are at Yesod, because that will also reoccur. It's called the sun, and it's called a lotus crown, but it's the moon, but it's not really the moon. It's the crescent moon upside down with the sun in it, but it's seated on a lotus throne. And the lotus and the sun are not really what they appear to be. The sun in that configuration is really the supernal sun. So the sun behind the sun, which some people say is Sirius B. And so that is a green sun. And in the 90s, like when I was like a little kid, when they would teach us in school about things, they would say, oh, like the sun actually has like a yellow green chromatography, like it's on the spectrum of yellow green. So I always thought that was really interesting because that is like her color as well.
Yeah, there was I remember, I think in the Eyeballs series when we covered that, there was something to do with, I think Lisa tried explaining like yellow and green and how much like it's something to do with like this, what you were just getting at. They're like extremely close to each other on like the same spectrum in a sense.
No, they are. And also the red, like she's wearing pink, but really it should be red. But pink also works in a way if you're like thinking of it like water dripping down the middle pillar from Kether towards Yesod, towards Malkuth, then pink would actually make sense. So
I've even thought like real quick, even with that symbol on top of that headpiece that she's wearing, that's very much like I could see from depictions that I have tried to explain with magical experiences, I could see someone designing that same thing. Because like I have said, it gets like very black, and then all of a sudden you start to get like this eclipse-looking thing that starts to rise up and kind of open.
Well,
and it just seems like very, very, the symbol means something to me, that way.
No, it 100% does. And also remember, the eclipse is the dragon. So in a way, in a Buddhist way of thinking, the eclipse is Vishnu, because Vishnu is the dragon in Buddhism. But he's not the dragon necessarily in Indian Tantra, but he can be, because he's always associated with the 7 Naga kings who live above his crown, like who are like above his head. So he is the dragon of the eclipse. The dragon crisscrosses both ways, his physical body and his smoky tail. So, and that's part of what gives her the green color. That's how Tantra would explain it, is that our sun, our physical sun is red in Jyotish. And so in like the Vedic astrology, it's the gemstone is a ruby. But she's obviously not a ruby. She's not like, she's a peridot.
Maybe that's what Star Ruby's all about with Crowley.
No, 100.
Because people do like that. That really isn't on the same part of the tree as like the lesser pentagram. It's like a little bit higher, in my opinion. And some people I do think will like almost kind of associate. It's just very weird. Now you're talking about the sun being red, in the ruby or whatever, and he has the star ruby, and where you kind of are on the tree. That's like, wow. That's what weird.
I told you, Tantra has all the answers.
You know, there is something though that I've been kind of like hitting on a lot lately, and I'm after doing this series with you, I'm definitely think so with this stuff and Islamic occultism.
Yes.
I think it is deeply embedded in the OTO.
There's unbelievable amounts.
More than people would, accept and realize. I think it's much bigger, to tell you the truth.
No, especially, and I think the Arabic stuff is so unknown. It's called sihir, and because my dad's from Indonesia, so I have some, not like tons of knowledge, but like a little familiarity with it. And it is like really intense. It's like unbelievable how much people do it. People who will pretend to be pious on the outside, but not pious on the inside, I guess. So yeah, anyways, that's a tangent, but I think it's really interesting to think about that, how much of how many magicians really exist in the world. I think it's a lot more than people really think. And she is that. Like, I remember you did an episode with Headless, and you guys were talking about the groves, and the kings would go into the groves, and the kings would sacrifice themselves. She is a grove goddess. That's what an outcast. That's what a Chandali is. Wow. It's a tribal girl who is like the object of worship, who is the Kumari, who is the daughter, who is worshipped. So they will take like a 13-year-old girl just on the cusp of menses, not before, not after. So they will worship her as a manifestation of the yoginis, of the exterior, but it's not the exterior part of the mandala, it's the inner circle. Anyways, I know this is very metaphysical, but it's interesting, and they would do the animal sacrifice in the groves to the 7 Pleiades.
I'm just wondering now if the number 13 has something to do with that shit now.
100%.
With occultism.
I mean, the number 13 seems to come up a lot with everything.
I think a lot in true crime, where the major people who the crimes were against were female too, which is, I think is kind of interesting, especially now after you said that.
Well, one of her things, like, this is not something that people really obviously do anymore, but the idea is that she would have to be in coitus with 8 time kings. So not all 10, but 8 to make her Raja.
See that? This is even making it worse. I was thinking of Gilgo Beach, and Shannon Gilbert, the first house she stopped at on Gilgo Beach, the number was 8. And then the last time she got seen was when she was by house 17. I mean, come on, what the fuck? What the fuck now, man?
That's weird.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of 13s all over that case. Wow. Yeah, see, that's weird. That's weird.
Is 17.
And then now think about this. She's the one who birthed the whole fucking story. Shannon Gilbert. If they didn't find her, none of this would ever have happened.
That's really weird.
I'm telling you, that's a cult shit with that fucking Rex and Gilgo Beach shit.
No, and she is the composer. That's what she does. She's the composer of the story, of the play, of the illusion that we see. That's what she is. That's why she holds the sitar, is because she plays the rajas for the king. She is a kingmaker.
And, a German shepherd dog god found her, and that's what started the whole fucking thing.
And the dog thing is also very interesting because that's Shiva's mount. And also Jack Parsons was his wife. I forgot which one, or his girlfriend. She was, I think I even heard you talk about it, was that she was like kind of doing these weird sex rituals with German shepherds and like sacrificing them.
Oh, supposedly. Yeah, there was some wild stuff with that. Yeah.
So there is something there. There is definitely, and like we were talking even pre-recording, like there clearly was an introduction of like very transgressive tantric texts into magical societies. It's very clear to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just what I think anyways. But yeah, no, I agree. It's just like she's important, I would say, as a goddess. Like I'm not saying she's not. Oh, and also this is interesting. MIA, the rap artist, she named her second album Matangi. So I think that's also very interesting. The goddess of tantric music that is able to influence your feelings, your emotions, your perceptions, your understanding.
Ooh, that's serious.
So, anyways, you
gotta wonder what that person's getting. You gotta wonder what that person's trying to say there.
So this is Netzach. So Qabalah, the golden lotus.
Fuck Kamala.
Yes. And well, her name is Kamala Mika, but she can be also called Qabalah. So I do honestly, so if we're going really conspiratorial, I do actually think that there is a reason why she's named that. I think that that's why. I don't think it's like by accident that it's a Mahavidya. It's like a greater wisdom. It's like a true name of God. Like that's kind of how they are. So she is a very, 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 she sits on the ocean. So I didn't really choose the best image for this, but I think I chose the image because of the colors and because of where her eyes were facing, because that's a very important thing for this sphere. And she looks forward. It's very, very important. So Lakshmi, who is like the lower name, we'll say, she looks down at her own reflection in the waters of Venus. Okay. So she gets caught up in her own beauty. But Kamala does not get caught up in her own beauty. Kamala is the Mahamaya. Kamala is the source of the beauty of the world. All the illusion that is beautiful, that is from her. So she is, and because she's like an enlightened being, she kind of is beyond the perceptual beauty of the world. She finds everything beautiful, but she's extremely aloof. And that is kind of her conceptual idea, is that it's very difficult to access her.
You know what I think is interesting while you're saying this? I hate to interrupt, but I don't want to lose this.
No, go for it. I love it.
You're talking about like the beauty and caught up in the beauty and not caught up in the beauty. Between sphere 7 and 8, and Netzach would be 7, and then 8 would be going towards, the other side. And even though that's the female side, you would get Thoth over there, or Mercury, or male things, and you do get the symbol of hermaphrodite with the Hermetic Qabalah. So like I do think, in a sense, at this point, when you're at Netzach, as you're going to 8, that's more of like, this is how I think sometimes people will attribute Lucifer type of stuff with 7. That, in my opinion, is more of like the path between 7 and 8, because I think you are admitting light out of that form now, and you're moving on to something else. And between 7 and 8, there is like that exchange, and the way they word it in the Qabalah is almost like the rainbow, or like that's where the colors and the prisms almost start to form. And I could see like that's what's mind fucking and captivating you. It's like,
I 100%
there's
agree.
all that now, like all that shining light that, think about it, when the TV was black and white, you pop that shit into color, how more realistic it is now. It is so real to you. The more colors, the more definition, the more realistic it looks.
Well, I think you'll also find this interesting. Her number is 10. So in Tantra, obviously, they're placing extreme emphasis on this sphere for a reason, or on her. And I also think it's interesting that she tames Venus. Venus is an Asura, so he goes counterclockwise. She goes clockwise. She's a right-handed goddess, but the planet goes counterclockwise. And he's an Asura, and his gemstone is a diamond. So maybe you could say she is the supreme or supernal light that goes through the diamond, which is prismatic, and reflects onto the path, or onto Yesod. Yeah. I think that's kind of an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, well, there is a connection with that going to Yesod as well, besides going straight to Hod. So,
also, I think it's interesting that this sphere in particular can have Durga appear as well. So Durga, I think we talked about her the last time. She can appear on a lion, or she can appear on a tiger. Both of those, I would say, that arise in Netzach. When she arises on a tiger, that is the mother that is almost perfect, but she's still not quite her true full self, because really her true full self is in union with God or liberated from the tree. So you have those two kinds of different ideas, but there's also a place where they coalesce above Kether. But when she's Kamala, she's totally fixated on just like emanating creation and her own beauty, but she can be a kingmaker. So she has the gift of eternal wealth. She can just grant you, but it's not wealth. Like people will think, oh, it's like for a lottery. No, that's gross sorcery. This is not that. This is the power to influence the strings and subtle light of your karma so you can have wealth. Because if you ask a deity for wealth, this is the tantric idea, both Buddhist and Hindu, it affects your karma to receive the boon. It can injure your karma to receive a boon, just like it can injure your karma to use left-handed practices. In fact, injures your karma a lot more. So once you have access to her sphere, it can be unlimited. But there's a story, which I told in the episode I did with John Lee, about a guy who waited 20 years for a boon, and he almost died of starvation. And then by chance or by her intercession, he was then asked by a king to become his minister, his chief minister, sort of saving his life. And the king was also a practitioner of the Qabalah Tantras. So I think that's really interesting as well, that practitioners of the Tantras can see the other one attain boons within that kind of practice. And the other thing is the 4 elephants. That's really important as well, because people will know Ganesh. When we talked about him a little bit in the first episode, he was originally an Asura, so an anti-god of the crossroads. And there were 4 elephants of the crossroads. They're all facing outwards, because think of it like a four-way crossroads. They're all facing towards people walking on the roads. They're all towards her. So they've removed all obstacles and they're granting all boons unto her. So there's no obstacle she cannot overcome. That's kind of the idea. And they're pouring the water on her, because when the water leaves her body, it has a slightly golden hue. So it's like a wealth grant. It's the idea is like a wealth grant thing. So yeah, I think that's very interesting as well.
Yeah. I actually do like that one on the right a lot.
I tried to change it up, and this is her again, and you just see her. This is more of her in an activity position where she's more ready to come in to, well, if someone's doing the practices, the sadhana, she's more ready to be intercessory. But again, she's not really looking at you. And even in this image, like she's looking straight, but she's not really looking at you. She's more of a placid. That's kind of her thing, is like she's very not intercessory. That's why Durga, who rides the lion, who is the warrior, she is so much more in the world. She's so much more worldly through this sphere. So anyways, I just thought that's interesting. I like the colors of this. I think it's very nutsock.
This one's bugged. This one to me looks straight up eyeball shit. She's staring on the Ora Serrata, and she's the hyaloid canal bending, and that's the water changing underneath your pupil. Because when the canal bends, your pupils are pulling back, and the water's going to change inside your eyeball in that area. Totally looks like that. And I question if those things are like the fucking cones or rods in the back of your eyeballs on the ends of the elephants.
Well, wouldn't that make sense? Because they're pristine white elephants. So they are taking the colors of the things around them that are reflected onto them. So that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's bugged out. If you start getting into like light and all that stuff, yeah. Especially with them being like white. You know what I'm saying? That's like pure, and then maybe a conversion into something else.
Yes. Because really, what is a diamond? A diamond is clear. But you can, like, once the light passes through the diamond, it becomes a rainbow. It becomes prismatic. And so her quality is gold, but there is this other quality of like pinks and reds and greens. Like green's very prominent, but it's not the main. In Tantra, the green is the lesser quality for the sphere. It's not the greater quality. The pink and the red and the sometimes even a little purple, and you get the green's important, and then you obviously have the blue, but you have really all the colors, because in some of the images, she is pouring gems out of her hand. I think she actually is in this one as well. Or maybe not. But in some images, she is. So that's really important for people to consider, because it's not just gross wealth. There are 8 kinds of wealth. that are called the Ashtadanyas, who are associated with the 8 Lakshmis, who are the 8 daughters of wealth, you could say. And so, I mean, I think that she has all the qualities. That's what I'm trying to say. She has all the qualities, but she also has none of the qualities. She's both the 1 and the 0.
Mm. Yeah, I can see that for sure.
So we can move on from this one, MYP, when you're ready.
There we go.
Okay, so this is the one, I will say this is my favorite episode that I did, as well as my favorite sphere. I'm just being honest right up front, because I get excited, then you can like pull me back. So this is Lalita Tripura Sundari, but she has a Buddhist name. So I'm going to use the Buddhist name for the most part during this explanation, because it's just easier for me, because it's something I know. So this is the queen. So when she is sitting on Sada Shiva, so she is sitting on the corpse of Shiva. So he is God without quality, no quality. He's totally in bliss, just totally sleeping, happy. His dream is her. And you can see she's even sitting on the Sri Yantra. So the upward facing triangles and the downward facing triangles, which makes all the syllables of Sanskrit bijas. So all the mantras that we say come from the sphere. So I think that's very interesting. I also think it's very interesting that although she's very red in this picture, her color in text is coral. And she often has red hair and green eyes. So I think that's very interesting as well. Yeah, the emerald eyes is extremely important for the sphere, like very, very important. In fact, you could almost say that this is the goddess who started me to do the whole thing. Because when I listened to you and Robbie talk about emerald tablets, as well as Thoth and Tahuti, it really made sense for me that she really would start here. Because she is the queen, she is the princess, and she is the daughter, all at the same time. But you can see she's sitting above the cube. So if you want to call it the cube of Metatron, she is outside of the cube in this position. Now, this is a Nuwari image, which means it's syncretic, both Buddhist and Hindu. There's no problem. Either one can venerate this image. But I like this image a lot because it's syncretic, but I also think it's really interesting because she is outside of the cube. So in one way of thinking, like in the cube of Mecca, like the Kaaba, they have the 7 kind of yonis that are, covered in silver and gold. And there's a hole where this, if you compared it to the tree of life, there's a hole where Hod would be. Because in a way of thinking, although she is in union, Yab-Yam, with Shiva right now, so she's in coitus, he's like connected to her, we'll say. Mm-hmm. She's not into it. It's not like she's against it, but she's not in her, like, it's, when we get to Yesod, you'll see there's a difference. Like, she's very into the sexual connection.
Gotcha.
That's who she is. Do
you think maybe this could even symbolize maybe death of the sexual, like, connection of, like, in the flesh, in a sense?
It's interesting because when we'll do the other images, you'll see she has this kind of like playful sexual quality. And she is said to be the most, so her name means Tripura. So 3 worlds or 3 cities, that can also be her name. The most beautiful of the 3 worlds, Tripura Sundari. So she is the goddess of what's called the sugarcane juice ocean. So it's the nectar, the sweetness of life. So that's kind of the concept for her sphere, is that she is the goddess, but she's also the true goddess of wisdom. Like, all of them are Mahavidyas, all of them are goddesses of wisdom, especially Dhumavati at Chokma is another full wisdom goddess. But really, in this sphere, she is the real wisdom goddess. So she is the goddess of like our will and our ability to kind of use rhetoric and discourse. And when she appears to people, and there's a famous story from a Jain Tantra, and I think that the Jain stuff does not get spoken about nearly enough, because there's a lot there. And a lot of the people who are Jains still, like, they're very wealthy people. Like, they're in the diamond business. And I just think that that's very interesting that we don't hear very much about that religion specifically. but it's very like prominent in certain like parts of society. But anyway, she appears and she's the goddess of discourses, so she will speak to the different teachers about the nature of reality. That's really what she does. She challenges them in some of their preconceptions.
Nice.
But also,
Preconceived notions.
Yes, exactly. Preconceived notions, exactly. But I also say that one of the interesting things in Buddhism is she's called the self-arising Dakini Queen, meaning that she started as a goddess of love, like just a general, like a Dakini in the world, like a red, like colored, kind of like carnal ground deity in the world. She's associated with love. She's also associated with these little dogs. They're called doles, DHOLES. And as well as I said, she's associated with this eagle. It's called the crested serpent eating eagle. So it's like a half, it's like how the golden eagle at the top of with Chinnamasta is a huge eagle, like it can eat children. This eagle is much smaller, but they eat poisonous snakes. And in one way of thinking, she is the one who tames Rahula. She tames the dragon. So she doesn't clear him in astrology, but she tames him. So she is kind of a magician in a way. She tames the electricity, tames like the sound of the bijas that we speak. Even though she's not the goddess of gross speech, in fact, she doesn't really say anything. That's kind of her thing, is that she's kind of quiet. She kind of smiles. That's kind of what I've read before in different tantras. She kind of smiles, or she can appear as different kinds of people. She can appear in the city as sometimes she's described as a goddess like a witch who sells love potions, but the outcome is always negative. So it's kind of like a parable, you could say. Or sometimes she appears as a tribal goddess who makes arrows. So you see this idea of the arrow is so important to her sphere. And also when you're looking at like the bottom of the tree, like from Hod to Yesod to Netzach to Malkuth, that looks very much like an arrow.
There's a part in here I mentioned in the Eyeball series. I can't remember if it's the Corner of the Rods. One of them has this little thing in it that looks just like an arrow. It's like almost like a little dagger inside of it. It's so weird. I was like, oh, is that the archer right there?
I mean, that's what she is. She is like the archer. But people don't associate with her bow and arrow with hunting, because it's not hunting. It's magical activity, meaning the learning of ritual practices. So it's me. So if I literally read the Chakra Samvara Tantra, that is what she is. She's me reading the Tantra and understanding it. But I might not fully understand it in this sphere, because Tara obviously is the goddess of like understanding. So this is me learning. This is me kind of like seeing what it is for the first time, but not as a child, although obviously we're going to talk about her other form, which is right beside her, which is a child. And it also is her fully complete in the world, but it's a form she takes to play in her own creation, to play in Maya. And she can only do it innocently, but also with great strength. And you see what she holds. She holds a rosary and she holds the tantras. So what is she saying? She's saying to do the rosary. And interestingly, a coral rosary is extremely auspicious. So just like she has coral skin, if you want to say, she also, if you use a coral rosary, it has like extra powers, you could say. So that also is like a sort of a hidden implication. And also she is the goddess of the pink lotus. That's very important to her idea, because just like we said, each of the bija means seed, the seed of the lotus garden, planting the seeds to bloom. So you can also say she is the goddess of skillful means. So that's a rhetorical device we use a lot in Buddhism. Well, I don't use it, but I mean, I do probably use it a little bit, like not intentionally, but it's sort of like sophistry, but it just means that some people aren't ready to hear the whole meaning. And maybe some people aren't meant to hear the whole meaning. So you will explain things in an outer way, which I'm sure you understand. Sometimes that's what you have to do, because people are not fully ready to understand the whole meaning. They're just not. Or they will have a negative reaction when it's not necessarily negative. So it's kind of tempering your words to deal with the outside perceptions. So it's kind of, but you're still planting the seed, because just like we're doing now, like people who are listening to this, that's kind of planting the seeds of Dharma in someone else just by listening.
Yes.
So in a way, she also makes those seeds bloom, but it's not until you're ready. Because she's not like a ferocious goddess. Like, she can be a carnal ground goddess, but she dances. That's her thing in the carnal ground. She is dancing around the cremation fire. She's not like the goddess who's performing the tantric rites. She's not having sex with someone. She's not like sacrificing anything. She's just totally in bliss. And in her Buddhist form, she stands upon the Mara, so the demon of lust. So I think that's also very interesting. So she's completely without desire. Desireless desire is kind of the concept for Buddhism in this sphere. And so the goddess next to her is her own goddess, and she is complete, but she is also herself and her daughter. So her name is Bala Tripura Sundari. So can mean play. So the play who is beautiful of the three worlds, or it can mean strength. So strength that is beautiful in the three worlds. Because every obstacle that Bala, the little girl, conquers, she does through both innocence and strength. So not just to play in the Leela, but also when you overcome things, or when you are faced up with obstacles, she conquers them by knowing that she is secure in her practice. So if you want to say that's what she kind of is, she's kind of telling you she's the daughter as the guru. She's the daughter as the teacher, telling you need to be doing the recitations. You need to be reading the text. You can't be fucking around. You have to actually like focus. And that's why she also takes the form of the little girl, because no one is really going to look at that image and like get too distracted, because you're kind of like, the conception is very obvious right away. She's the God as teacher. Right. And so you're going to treat her with respect just because she, like you treat little kids with respect. It's the same idea.
Yeah. You also your images just look that totally different too. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes, 100%. Sometimes I think like sex can be, whatever, confuse things and fuck shit up.
No, 100%. And so
sometimes when you use like a little child, the whole aspect of screwing just isn't existent yet. You know what
exactly. No, exactly. Because even the ages that she follows, like she starts like she's 8 years old in the picture of Bala, then she's 16 in the Buddhist image, and then she's like she's a full bride in the image with Shiva. So it's her 3 stages, but it's also she's full in every one. So yeah, we can switch to the next one, because I think you'll find this really interesting. So these are more of the Indian Shakta Tantra images. Obviously I explain it in a more Buddhist way for this sphere because I'm better at that goddess, but it's a still very similar idea. It's all the same. It's very like she holds a sugarcane bow and arrow. She is seated in a position of activity. So she's still ready to come into the world like very easily. She's not like Qabalah at Netzach. She finds a lot of things very beautiful. She finds a lot of things fun. She doesn't have hang-ups. But she's also a triple goddess. If you see the image, I think that's why I chose it, because it's also an interesting idea that she can be a triple goddess with Saraswati, so the goddess of Vedic learning, and Lakshmi, the Vedic goddess of wealth, who are both river goddesses in the ancient times. So I think that's also very interesting that she has that association with like learning and wealth and beauty. She's kind of the whole thing.
Yeah.
But she's not like a harsh ruler. She's not a harsh mistress. She's still very, love. That's her concept, is love. It's the true love. It's the will of Kether and the will of the goddess upon the world, who is love. So anyways, we can go the next one, because I'm better at the Buddhist one, so I'm kind of waiting for that one.
There we go.
Okay, so there we go.
Wild.
So we'll start with the one on the right. first, which is also a Nuwari image. She's standing upon the corpse of Mara, of the Klesha Mara, who is the poison, or yes, the poison of lust. So she's completely without desire. You see in this image, she's not looking at the Upasaka. That has a very secret tantric meaning. I won't get into that, but it does matter where she is looking, and she's shooting her arrow because she's in activity at this exact moment. And you can see her other implements. She's holding a goad, Goad, which is an elephant goad. So it's like a hook when you're riding the elephant to keep the trunk out of your way. And so I'll just say this really quickly. I think it's really interesting is that in Vedic astrology, the gemstone of Mercury is an emerald. And as well, the prince who is the king of Mercury. So the planetary powers, as we've spoken about before, they're not really they're important, but they're not nearly as important. They're really the outer layer. So he is the prince. He also holds a bow, and he rides upon a lion with an elephant's trunk, sort of like a chimera. So I think that's quite interesting. But she is a self-rising Dakini queen, means that she became a Buddha through her own listening, hearing, understanding of all the sermons that she listened to, and she listens to all the sermons. So that's kind of her idea. Is she hears all the sermons of all the Dharma teachers in creation, and then she kind of makes up her mind about what is the correct teaching. So this one, I just love this one on the left-hand side. And so this is the image that is kind of the Aeon of the Daughter image in Tantra. And you can see there's even an eye-like symbolism to this. So this isn't quite Kurukula at Hod. This is really the synthesis between Hod and Netzach, but not at Yesod, at Tippereth. So in the coming age, it's the sort of the saying is that this is the form of Shakti, or the form of the goddess that she will take in the next age. So I just think that's interesting. And I just thought the colors were really cool and very usually she has turquoise, and I would have thrown an image that has like a turquoise scarf. That's very much a part of her accoutrement. But I just think that that's very interesting. She has like all the colors, but her color is really pink. But it also shows that the replacement of the green sun with the yellow sun. I just think that's interesting. I don't know. It's just a conceptual idea. That's all it was. But I just think it's interesting. No, because like, what Crowley said about like, the hawk god, I always forget his name. Horus.
Yes.
Horus. So the right Aeon of the child. So that's what this is. That's what...
There was stuff you were even saying before. I was just like, this sounds so much like this whole story. But I didn't say it. It was one of the reasons why I said it's so OTO to me with Thelemic.
Yeah, it is. It is. And this comes from the Kala Chakra. And this is from a Rime practitioner called Jumi Pam Rinpoche, who was a very...
I lost you for a second there, bud.
No problem. So he was to study all the texts that existed, all the magical texts, like Indian Tantra, Buddhist Tantra, the different cycles of Tantra, because there are many, many different texts, like thousands and thousands and thousands. So his idea was to study all of them, see what matched with Buddha Dharma, make sure it was in keeping with the teaching of the middle pillar, but also to see what worked. So she kind of was she's a very special practice for learning, like I said, for wisdom. So it's an interesting idea when we talked about the Diamond Thunder daughter at the very first episode, who rides the blue-green peacock, who meets with the sun. So when they kind of explode, that's what it's described as, like a star of love exploding into view, and she's desireless desire. So the saying is like, the daughter is the only one who can contain the kingdom and the sun. That's what she is. Love is the only way. That's the concept.
Wow.
It's saying that, don't know your will, love people, don't don't like we shouldn't like massacre anyone, and do the practices, because she is the meeting of like the bliss state of Hode and the beauty of Netzach, and she mixes those two together, as well as she conquers the moon. She's standing upon a sun disk, a moon disk, and the eclipse.
Damn.
Anyways, I didn't know if we were gonna how heavy I was gonna get, but I just thought
that was great.
too good
to
good to not share.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is great. And I don't want to go too much more into it, but like even I think what you were saying, like on the right hand side, about kind of I guess making discernment of like what's like to keep and to get rid of. I mean, I see that's like that's going to be chaos. That's going to be death and destruction. That's going, again, fire, maybe cleansing, burning what's not needed, or something like that. Like change, and it can be depicted to look like that when it literally is just like actually something that's beneficial.
Well, just look at the two images side by side. Her leg is in a different position.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a different age, and it's going to be a different kind of idea of what is transgressive and what is orthodox. Because I think we're moving away from like these really stringent ritual systems. Like I obviously like what I do, and I'm going to keep doing it like from a trad perspective. But I think that we live in a time where the LHP practices have become very prominent and in society. And every time that happens, there is like this rectification that happens. And with the god of war, with the Diamond Thunder Sun, and he ascends or descends, however you want to describe it. And he meets with the daughter, and then he throws the black magic into the sea, into the supernal water, meaning that it will go back underground, which is where it always should be. That's kind of the idea. And she's also very psychic because she is the goddess, like you said, of discernment from wisdom. So, she will be a time where people are more discerning and more like intuitive, not psychic as in like gross, phenomenal psychic powers or anything like that. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just like we will have a lot better discernment. Obviously, we're not there. We're in the tumult period. But, she's dancing. She's dancing at the end of the world. She's dancing in the carnal ground. She's showing us bliss and love and conquering our desires, conquering lust. Like there's nothing wrong. Like there's nothing in Buddhism that says you can never have sex. Yes, if you're a novice monk, that's true. But once you're at the higher practices, none of that even matters. But it's about like, there's like a level we're all people. We have to treat each other with respect. That's kind of the idea. Like, we don't, we're not fucking around. We're just like, we're into what we're into, and we like are focused on our spiritual growth.
Something I do want to point out before we move forward, I may even missed it on a few other ones, but down here on the bottom, again, you have two circles that both look like, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of the eyes again. Or that would even be like almost like the Wheel of Fortune, or kind of like steering the abyss, in a ship. Well, that's what, I don't know if we talked about this when we did the sun at the very first episode, but his concept is conquer the abyss, defend the fortress, rectify the life force. So if she contains those three powers plus the shining wheel, so you see the yellow, that's the shining wheel, the Diamond Thunder's daughter. So she contains the powers of war within her. She contains the chaos within her because she is learned to overcome her lust, her bliss, and she knows her will. That's really her concept, is that she's not, Devi can get distracted in the earlier tantras. Like she gets very distracted. That's what Crowley liked. He liked the goddess at Yesod, who's very sensual, and like she loves connection, and she misses Shiva, and she, she's always craving different like sexual experiences, different like blood experiences, all that stuff. She's not that. She's completely overcome that. She's like I said, she's a self-arising Dakini queen. She becomes the Buddha of the Dakinis. Nice, I like that.
So anyways, that's a good place we'll go the next one. So this one I think you'll find really interesting because I know that you always say Hode is the place where the trans stuff comes up.
Yes.
But in a tantric way of thinking, it's Yesod or Bhairavi, because she manifests. So as we talked about, sometimes the goddesses will manifest in creation as a yoni in the rocks. So like a downward facing triangle in the rocks. Bhairavi manifests as a lingam Bhairavi. So like it's almost phallus-like. So she becomes like a physical phallus, but it's a female. So it's Bhairavi. So she manifests in the world as a dick, I guess. but there's a feminine quality to it.
Yeah.
So she's really the time of doing, the time of learning, the time of not tantric learning even, but like it's when we get to Malkuth, when Bhuvaneshwari steps out from her palace, she steps onto the carnal ground, onto the cremation ground. So when she does that, she becomes Bhairavi. She becomes like the one who's experiencing all the different tantric pleasures, the blood sacrifice, the sex, the, drugs and rock and roll. She's like experiencing it all at the one time, and she just loves it. She's just like so into everything. And so this is what I think also Crowley was talking about with the moon child, because in a way she wears the moon on her crown, and I obviously assigned her to Yesod, which has the lunar quality, and also she controls her specific astrological power is to control the nakshatra, so your birth star. So where your birth star falls into the lunar mansions, that's her power, is to fix the birth stars. But from the lunar mansion perspective. So I think that's quite interesting.
Yeah, I can see Yesod, especially now when you're saying like birth stars and stuff, birth. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can go, or did we? Okay, so then the one on the right, the image on the right, I think you'll find this very interesting. So I did say that she can be the black or the white peacock, which is true, but then she can also be the black, red, or white cobra. So the Kundalini energy, if you want to say it like that. Or the...
That's interesting. I was just like, I was thinking about, again with like, I guess like the birthing or, the whole tranny thing on how you were saying like sphere 8, but we're talking about sphere 9. I didn't want to like go too off of it, but then like the whole like Kundalini thing or like the Cobra, I was actually like thinking like sometimes I do wonder if that's kind of like what's happening at sphere 8. You were getting like, it's going to sound weird, but like maybe the way for me to explain it, if you're falling down at that point you're getting the spiral DNA that's going to actually start putting you into flesh. Like your code in this reality. I think at 8, then you have like the choice to go up and almost like unravel that and undo that dance of crossing streams that we weren't supposed to, as the Ghostbusters would say, and I think it's like almost kind of lays it out as a train track instead of a big mess of a spiral. I love that. So I could see how like there's still still going down. There's still going to be the male and female mixed together now for sure, because you're coming into the flesh.
Well, that's what she is. I mean, her desire is to be in union with Bhairava at this sphere. So she really is she's craving his phallus, you could say, but it's not really like that. It's like she's really craving his tantric knowledge, because she's not an advanced upasaka at this point. She's just become the bride, and now she's become the tantrika for the first time. So she is really experiencing all these like transgressive acts for the first time. She's seeing the world as the Mahasmashana, which is the world beyond the illusion. So, and also interestingly, she's also associated with the red hibiscus at this stage. So I think that's also very interesting. And she can also take other colors. She can also be white. She can also be black. And she usually appears red and very ferocious. She's a very ferocious goddess, this one.
See, that's interesting, because like if you're saying like 9, sphere 9, 9 would also go to sphere 7. And I could be wrong, but I even think like red hibiscus would match like as a herb. So I'm wondering if that's like the connection. You know, if there's like some like showing like how there's a connection between those two.
100. Oh, I totally agree.
I
And
think like
all the goddesses.
sometimes even sorry to interrupt you. I think a
No,
lot
no.
of times in the Kabbalah, like even like with herbs or the different shades of colors, I think sometimes might in a way it's almost like change of frequency, and then maybe that can actually help you understand how it's like even connecting to the other spheres too. Like is there the change and then the break off in a way?
Well, you'll like this. She controls our amorousness through the lower vibrations. So it's the lower 2 chakras. So remember, I told you we don't use the 7 chakras, we use the 5 hero system.
Yeah.
But you could still say it's still the lower 2. So the lower 2 are not the same, but it's comparable. So she's vibrating the lower 2 chakras, and it's telling us what we should think. It's not us knowing our will at this point. It's just us feeling. It's just our animalistic desire.
Oh, you know, and just real quick, another reason why I even said the Cobra thing is because, like, I'm even thinking of, like, the caduceus and the DNA spiral.
100%.
You know what I'm saying?
No,
So, like, that was another
totally
reason
agree.
I kind of, like, left that out. And before we do move on, I do want to say this is even another one. Even with, like, the symbol at the top or, like, just some of the things I've seen, it is wild how, like, these things are, like, throughout, I guess, like, ceremonial magic, but, like, I don't think has ever, like, really had, I don't think it's so known to be, it's just weird. I'm seeing crossovers of symbolism.
No, I
You know,
totally
it may not
agree.
have been like so known that like, oh, that's actually from that. People are just like, oh, I thought this magician was just using that. It was a symbol. You know what I'm getting at?
No, 100%. I totally agree. Because chaos magic did kind of pollute the stream in that way. Like it kind of muddled the waters, you could say, of like what is traditional and what is like some postmodern addition. Not that that's bad. It's just, it does kind of, it changes meanings. So that's usually not good. Obviously, you know that in magic is not, you want to have like a clean meaning. You don't want to have like the muddied meaning. But also she takes pomegranates. So I thought you'd find that interesting as one of her outer offerings.
Wow, okay.
So, and also the cobra reminds me sort of the story of the serpent, because you see in one of her hands she's actually holding the text of Tantra. So, in the story of Tantra, this is the first time that Shakti receives the book of Tantra. So I'm saying one book, but really it's the idea is the knowledge of Tantra, not necessarily like contained within a book, but because she's doing it, right? Like that's the idea. Her idea is that she's practicing it actively, but she holds the book. She also holds a rosary, just like the little girl at Hode. So she is also the goddess as the guru, or God as the guru, but it's a different kind of guru. It's the guru of the transgressive action, the left-handed action.
This is some weird art. Some wild
I know.
stuff.
I picked extra weird ones for you, NYP.
Yeah, no, I really like this stuff. I could drag this shit on, but I'm just gonna shut my mouth.
No, I love it. So these are her. Like what I told you, she is the lingam by Ravi. So it's the male phallus. Like that's how Shiva appears. He appears as like these natural stalactites in the world. Like they even have a ice pure. It's like a pillar of ice. And they do like the puja where they pour the milk on top of it. So this is her arising from the ground or from the earth, because that's what you could say. She's like the earth of moon or whatever, giving her like a more alchemical meaning. And she arises from the earth as a male phallus, but it's still a Bhairavi. So it has like almost like a clitoral, we'll say, quality.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, actually. You know, I do find interesting, too. Okay, wait, yeah, I just want to make sure I'm not screwing up here. Oh, yeah, you like going from, like I've said before, I do think there's an association. I mean, it obviously is because the flashing colors, when it comes to talismans, like for Mars, it'll be red with the flashing color of green. And then Venus will be green with the flesh and color of red. This, with ceremonial magic and Qabalah and stuff. And, like, you're crossing, like, the sun in a sense. you know, and then like you got the gold, so it's like you almost see like kind of like a progression in a path possibly too.
No, I totally agree. And remember, the paths in Tantra are all said to be ruled by Ganapati, who's the elephant-headed god. Ganesh, people call him, but in Buddhism we call him Ganapati. But so then that's her son. So he has a relationship with her at every stage, every sphere. So I think that's also really interesting. And then if you add in the 10 Shivas or the 10 Bhairavas, the ferocious Shivas, they're not really Shiva, but we call them sometimes Shiva. So then he becomes like the guards before the gates. Like before you cross the path to each different sphere, you have to overcome like that Time Lord. So I think that's also very interesting.
Yeah, I like that. I'll go on to the next. Yeah,
so we are at now Malkuth. So this is Bhuvaneshwari, and her name means like the earthbound goddess. But so this is Devi as the bride. So she really is the bride. Like that is her concept. She is newly arisen princess from heaven. She comes down to marry Shiva. Shiva lives on a palace on Mount Kailash, but around Mount Kailash is the great cremation ground, which is the world, but it's actually a cremation ground as well. So it's filled with the ganas, with the hosts. So with all the demons and vampires and all that stuff of the carnal ground. So that's Shiva's like gang. That's his little like thing that follows him around when he beats his drum. He has all these like spirits and like gnomes and fairies and all that stuff following him. So she is living in the palace, but it's a decrepit palace. But it's interesting because she is time as space. So you'll see in the right-handed image that Vishnu, so that's Vishnu, is sleeping on his Naga kings, on the 7-headed Naga kings. And then she expands from that to become like the queen of the world. But she is also like the planets also arise at this point, as well as he is Narayana. So Vishnu is sleeping. So in one way, even though she's married to Shiva, Shiva's not there, right? Like Shiva went off to go do his meditations. So you could say that when you're at this point, because the best practitioners of Tantra, even though monks have carried the tradition for a long time, the best practitioners are householders. That's kind of the idea of her sphere. It's the stepping through the doorway or the lintel to becoming a Tantrika. But the Tantrika always starts within the house, is a householder, is the father. So when you're approaching her specifically, she is said to be able to make you into Vishnu, make you into the hero. Well, just like I said, you have to be the hero who climbs the tree. That's the whole idea.
Did you see that movie Mother with exclamation point? I brought it up a bunch of times. I don't know if you've ever seen it though.
I probably have. I don't remember. I watched like not that much stuff. I'm much more of a reader, so I probably have watched it, but it was probably half stoned or asleep. Or
yeah, it's just very much of like kind of like I think what that chick was kind of representing in that house. Yeah, just was interesting. I thought I noticed some commonalities here.
No, I mean there's a lot. I mean there's like if you want to point something out, go for it. I mean I just like her because she is the goddess of the earth, but she's not the physical earth. She is like the supernal earth, like the kind of conceptual idea of when we come into the world, we are birthed as a child. So we do not have words or feelings to describe to the things that we see. So we don't really have perceptual understanding yet. So we undertake the religious practices to understand all that there is in the world.
You know what? I almost, this might get weird and wild, but like if you want to, it depends on what you even think about what's out there. I mean, I have some weird, wild ideas, but the gold again, that is sun, and or you could go with the sun, gold or Tifereth. And, that technically is shining light down onto whatever you want to think this is, flat, circular, whatever, plane. It's light illuminated down onto a plane and taking shape. I'm seeing in this.
Yeah.
Through color. in the
Well,
ring.
you see, even that little lion guy is called the Kurti Muka. So that's the dragon of the eclipse. So, and how there's different rings in the of her throne that she's sitting on. There are different rings. So if you do the rings, that would be how many planets away from the sun she is.
Yeah, it's
Or-
like what I like even trying to say. It's almost as if you're starting at Tiferet, and instead of going up, you're heading back down the tree and like encompassing all of that.
Yes. Because then you can become the master of your own kingdom, the king of your own palace.
Yeah, well, yeah, and Tiferet would be kind of like king of your own domain as well.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. But he's higher. He's a little higher. He's a little loftier, right? If you're at Tippereth. But once you're at Malkuth, you're kind of more. Well, I think it's interesting. So I'll just say is like one of her boons that she grants is great wealth in real estate, as well as ability to make beautiful art. So she kind of is like this experience of doing through like engaging in the mundane world.
Yeah, no, I can see that, especially with like the real estate. You know, the land. I mean,
Land.
how much
yes.
more? Yeah, you're of the world. I mean, you're a piece of land.
So it
Dealing
could
with
be
land.
that is what I think too. Is I
Dealing
agree
with
with you. It's like-
space on this plane.
Yes, and the sun is shining down upon your land. So, like the blessings of civilization, which is the sun, shining upon your land. That's why although she wears the moon on her diadem, she does not, and she controls the moon. That's what she does astrologically. So, if you have if your moon is in a bad position, she fixes that. That's why Earth is a good position for her, because that obviously it rotates around the Earth, or at least that's what they tell us, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's very interesting. I mean, that's a really good description for her, because that's exactly what she is. Just it's you starting out, like that's how I would think of it. Is you're starting out as the not knowing what you're doing. So you go through all the different stages, all the practices, all the different kinds of like right-handed, left-handed, center pillar work.
I mean, it could
And
even be showing you there, like you're in the middle of the tree and you have the choice to go up or down as well. You're in.
that's 100% what it is. It's 100%. But she is also happy at this stage. She's the queen of her own kingdom, right? Like she has her setup and she's good with it. She might not be in perfect, just like we're not in perfect bliss at all times. But some people, you can have a very decent life. We
Yeah.
should enjoy the Leela for what it is.
I mean, that could
That's
easily
what it
just
is.
represent like the magician in the flesh.
100%. That's what she is, because she is kind of a witch still, even though she's not a carnal ground witch, or she's not like the red daughter at Hode. She's not that kind of witch, but she is kind of a witch in her own way, because she is like the one who creates her own reality. So I totally agree with you. I think that she is, and she does create Ganesh. So she forms him from the turmeric powder that she wears on her body, plus her own juices, plus Shiva's juices, and Mercury. So she adds all those things together, and she has a son. Although she has more than one son, but that's a good way to describe it. So she has to kind of create her own companions. That's kind of the idea of her here, though. So you can see that it's kind of also has that quality of, we can have the things that we want, but then we also want the things that we don't have. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah.
Like, that there's something greater, something higher, if you want to say it like that.
Well, what color is turmeric? Is that red?
So there are different kinds of turmeric, but usually it's considered to be, a tantric understanding is gold.
Oh, okay.
So it's the transmutation of fire. So it has like a very martial quality, but remember, Mars is more associated with lucky. It has like a lucky quality. So the transmutation from red into gold color has that like martial quality.
It's also very good conducting, electricity.
Well,
gold.
They do install the Sri yantras, so like the different forms, like the different upward and downward facing triangles, they're different for each goddess. So they do install them underneath the murtis, underneath the statues. And the statues sometimes will wear different kinds of metallic armors, like gold, silver, meteorite, etc., etc.
I was thinking when you were kind of going into like how it sounds like she creates the child. It was almost like, I was like thinking of like a golem almost, in Hebrew, where it's like you're taking clay, and I'm like, and that's why I was like, what does she mean? Whatever you mentioned, gold, the kind of a gold color, and I'm like thinking of electricity. I'm like, this is like fucking Frankenstein, the golem in this thing. At this point, you're taking you're taking something and injecting life into it, electricity.
Well, that's what she does.
Yeah,
that's what she does. She's lonely. She's lonely in her. She was curious about the world. She heard us cry for her. She falls down or comes down, depending on your perspective, because I think both are valid. And she comes down. She ends up here. She's like, okay, what the fuck is this? And then she's like, okay, I'm going to be the queen of my land. I'm going to be the queen of my creation, of the Maya. But then she's also like, everyone here is like a human. They're like very into their own feelings, conceptions, perceptions, ideas. And she's always beyond convention. So she's probably like, okay, I want to like create a little son. I'm like lonely. I want to like, keep myself occupied, have like friend companionship, because Shiva's gone. So he's at death, still praying in the cremation ground. So, it doesn't really... For her, although she's in a bliss state, she's also overcome bliss. But remember, in the Shakta Tantra, she still can have some of the negative qualities. She's still allowed, but in the Buddhist Tantra, she has to have overcome them. That's kind of the difference. She's always at a higher stage of conception in the Buddhist Tantras, whereas in the Shakta Tantra, she's always she has both the negative and the good qualities, but the negative qualities are just obstacles that the Upasaka then has to overcome. But we can change slides if you want, okay. MYP.
Yeah, real quick, just to throw it in. I'm almost positive, like pink or salmon goes with Tiferet. So it is interesting how, like, the one side you have the gold for we're talking about the sun, and then on the other one you get pink all over the place, which even Kabbalistically would still go with the same sphere. Just maybe different density at that point. I don't know.
No, that makes sense to me, and even interesting because there are densities to the picture. Like there's inward and outward.
Yeah, it's spheres. Like change. It's like I think it's like kind of like these spheres have a frequency within it.
Yes.
And like there's a fluctuation, the in between. And I think,
yes.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. So these are two. So there's Ganesh. So you see, this is a Buddhist Ganesh, but I like it better than the other Ganesh. Although Ganesh is really, really important. Like you cannot run away from Ganesh in a tantric understanding at all. He is the king of the kingdom. So if we talk about the god of war again, which we might, if we have a few more minutes at the end, he's the god of war. So he's the kingdom. Then the other one is the sun. So again, with the daughter at Hod / Tippereth, she kind of is the one who contains the kingdom and the sun. So again, he's really important. He is the lord of the earth. That's what it's called. He's called the Ishvara. So the lord of this plane, maybe. So he has an Ahriman-like quality, and he is very dualistic in the sense that like he giveth, but he also taketh away. And he is the lord of removing of obstacles, but he also places all the obstacles before you to begin with. So he has all that. But in Buddhism, he's a little more tamed. Like he's been a little more... he's been a Buddhist practitioner for a little longer, so he has tamed his own mind a little bit more, we could say. So this is him. It's called Maharakta Ganapati. So it means the great desire king is basically a way to describe it. So that's what he is. He's the great desire king. He is a Buddha, but he is more of a worldly, he has more access to us. So usually you will say, even I do this, you will say a quick Ganapati mantra before you even begin. So all the words come out properly. All the words come out in a steady stream. So there's no blockage.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so he is like, just like I said with the Asuras, when he started out as the elephant-headed Asura, he was the one who blocked the paths. But in Tantra, he has 33 forms.
Sometimes I think like the overflowing of the cup is like showing that, like coming out of that form.
Yeah, that's what it means. It's the non-dual form. It's how we are both form and formlessness, but really formlessness is our desired state.
Yeah, that's a really good way to say it.
Yeah.
The form, yeah. Wow.
And interestingly, he holds the axe as his major implement. So the axe only can cut one direction. So if you think of it like the paths on the Qabalah, it cuts the in-between, cuts the path right through the middle. So he's able to clear, his astrological power is to clear the smoky tail from the bottom of the tree, or from the planets closer to us. So when you're getting up to, obviously when we talked about this, we did Binah, Chokmah, and Kether, that's a different, someone else clears the dragon energy from those, but he clears it in the lower spheres. So I think that's very interesting. And through the smoke, he is able to give us our desires. That's why sin can be such a powerful tool in Tantra, to transform things. Not to sin because you're like sinning on, like to intentionally sin, but to take your old sins and to like transform it into something else. That's kind of what his concept is, like with a golem kind of thing, you could say. And interestingly, his name, Ganapati, means the Lord of Hosts. So like I said, Shiva is the Lord of Hosts, but when Ganesh is created, he becomes the Lord of the Hosts of Shiva. So I think that's also quite interesting.
Now, the one on the left, that is male, correct?
So the elephant is male.
Okay.
And then the golden, she is obviously a girl. Right. So she's just worth a quick, like a little thing, because I think she's so interesting, because she's the invisible, formless, heatless light that descends between the sun and the moon. On her, I think there are seven piglets. So there's 7 piglets are pulling her corpse cart through the 3 worlds into the lowest of the hells, and then they ascend back up. But her direction is always descending. So the pigs mean that nothing can stand in her way. And you can see that she also has a black pig's head, which can also be Prayusha, which means the dusk, so sunset. And then the red head can be Yusha, which is the dawn. And so she's also holding a needle, I think. Yes, a needle and a thread. So she is the goddess of the invisible treaty. So everybody else finds that very interesting.
Sews you together.
She sews it all together, the whole thing. She's the goddess of the treaties and between the humans and planets, between all life and planets. So she maintains kind of the karmic cycle in a way, because she even rides on a corpse cart.
I think it's great how it's like, I mean, depending, I mean, maybe I'm taking it the wrong way, but it's like pigs. I mean, those motherfuckers will just keep eating shit up, kind of, you know what I'm saying?
100%.
And, you know, I don't know, it could be very lazy or avarice, which would go back to Saturn in a sense, but I do think Saturn and Malkuth have a huge connection, and I'm going to mention it after we go back to the guy on the left. But it's almost like, you know, is it the the love of the consumption? Is this what's making the creation of this world? You know what I'm saying? The consumption of it.
So you're totally right. But if you think about it in a transgressive tantric way, the pigs represent all ignorance, just like you said. Like, it's all this lust, it's all the sins, it's avarice, it's greed, it's all of it.
Well, see, I even think the spiral tail at the end is used on purpose to show that you can still go back up that spiral.
Yes. Well, that's what it is. She's the figure 8 goddess. The dragon and her are in a constant cycle, and they do a race. That's what it's just how it's described. It's her brother. So they race through the universe. Interestingly, she's also the daughter who is the mind-born. It's called the mind-born light. that emerges at first creation. So if you remember at Kether, the goddess is cutting her head off, the crown. So she's the daughter that emerges first. She descends first. She is the Big Dipper. So the Big Dipper appears before the Pleiades, and then the Pleiades descend. That's the idea. She prepares. So she's also the Vajra goddess. She's the goddess who arises in the world. The hidden light descends and then prepares our inner channels. This is more of a yoga way of thinking, but prepares our inner channels to receive the lightning strike of God. So you could think of it like that. That's kind of interesting. I know people always like.
Yeah. One thing I do want to just say real quick about the one on the right, the pig face. To me, when I do finally get to it, so many other things I ended up getting sucked into. Getting into the brain. There is part of your brain that does look very much like that face right there, believe it or not. It's very like almost like an anteater or Baphomet almost looking, believe it or not, in your brain.
So
it's kind of weird.
You'll find this interesting. So another goddess can also arise at Netzach named Varahi. She's a very, very, very important Buddhist goddess who has a boar's face. Okay, she stands upon the Mara of ignorance. So if you're thinking of her descending, and notice how she has the red face. So the goddess at Hod is obviously coral colored. So she's descending from the earth, and then maybe she splits off in the explosion between the daughter and the son. So they're meeting. There's a dialectical process at Tippereth that the sun explodes. One head shoots off into Netzach, one head shoots off into Hod, and the other one continues the descent into hell to bring like the Dharma, that's what is considered to be the Dharma, into the lower regions for the people of the netherworld.
It's like walking off your sclera and falling into your pupil.
That's interesting, right?
I think that's the fool sometimes. The guy on the left, I don't want to forget.
No, he's really important. So
I'll try to make it quick. Brown goes back to also associated with Saturn. Or, well, I should say Binah on the Tree of Life, where Saturn would go. What color for that is brown, and it does share that in Malkuth as well. And I think, just my opinion, that shape in the back to me looks very much kind of like when you're going into your optic nerve from the back of in the back. And so it's like, to me, is this like showing you like him coming out and like fully of this world now. And it's like the darkness in the back of your eyeball, I would kind of see as getting as Binah, because now you're going to start riding the lightning out eventually when you keep going up the tree. So coming back down, I just see like the connection between Saturn and form just because of the brown. And it just does look like the optic nerve kind of like opening area, and like he's fully out of it, especially with all these things even in his hand. I mean, that's just tons of stuff and like, you know, I guess parts of life. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. No, that's what it is. And you're so right with the brown, and he stands upon his vahana, which is a rat.
I was going to ask you that too. And in my opinion, all at the top, as you're getting back into the darkness of the eye, the shit up there, I do question sometimes, is that the stars? So flipped now would be a rat. You know, rats.
Yes. That could be very interesting, actually. An idea. And I agree with you though about his relationship with Binah, because he would be he's the son that is manifest through the mother. So even though he's made with
that's like the technically, like they call that, I guess, to be like the outer robe of I forgot the word of it, but it's kind of like a very feminine figure or feminine shape. But that's like, there is energy. Again, if this is the optic nerve, even though it looks like a very, you know, feminine thing, there is electricity or energy. The sunlight is coming into that point and then turning into electricity. So there is even the energy of the male going. In my opinion, it would be almost like alternating current is you practicing magic.
Well, that's really interesting because he has 3 wives. So they're Buddhi, Riddhi, and Siddhi. So speech, learning, and accomplishment, magical accomplishment. So yeah, he has to interact with the feminine energies in order to work. He doesn't just happen. If he does it by himself, he will give you obstacles as many as you ask him to remove.
You got to tickle her fancy and she'll let you pass.
Exactly. And she'll
never say no.
He is often depicted as lithophilic, so erect. So that's very interesting as well.
Yeah, it could even be like just the male energy that the feminine energy is using to even put into form is now projecting fully out into this existence.
Yes. That's what I think. I'm totally there with you with the eyes and like understanding him as like a relationship between the other spheres and Malkuth, him arising on Malkuth. And interesting, he's standing on a moon disk in this image. Now, this is a specific Buddhist image. They don't always, obviously, they're all different. It's text dependent. But I do think that is interesting because usually in Buddhism, the kind of planetary disk that they sit upon is the nature of their power or the nature of their sphere. So and like obviously the moon and the earth have a very close relationship. Him standing upon the moon disk means that he is the outer teacher. So he is the teacher at the beginning. Just like I said, you have to acknowledge him to pass through the paths. So even if you're just going up from Malkuth, like you only have the one path to pass towards Yesod at first. Right.
One thing real quick I do want to add again, and I just found this interesting, and then we'll move on if you're done. Remember how I mentioned the whole consumption thing with the pigs?
Yes.
There was a situation at one point during my magical career in the OTO where I do think you're being shown the optic nerve, but you end up going the wrong way. And you will cross this, I guess you can call it a veil. And when you get there, it's like food and stuff and like things to read. But it's just like and the thing is too, it was like a lot of things that like would fall off of trees that you're eating. And I do look at the hyaloid canal and the vitreous humor kind of like looking like a tree.
Well,
and like if you're falling now from the back of the eye and you're going towards the beginning, towards this world, you're going to cross that veil. You're going to fall down to the ground. Now all those branches that look like the vitreous fucking, the vitreous nerves above the hyaloid canal, like you're eating the shit that has fallen off of that now. You know what I'm saying? Like, the death of that tree. You're eating the the fruit and the nuts and stuff. To me it looks like symbolism of actually heading towards your eye, and I got all off of this because of the consumption. You know what I'm saying?
No,
you left one area and you went somewhere else where now I'm eating stuff. I am of the world. This is a reason to be here because I can eat.
No, you're totally right. She even holds an acacia tree. Or acacia branch. So in this picture, she's holding a branch, like a little delicate branch. But there are other pictures where she's called Ashoka Kanta Maritzi, which means the branch or this tree wielding acacia tree wielding a Maritzi, the acacia ray of light. So what does acacia do? Well, acacia is DMT if you mix it correctly. So you could say that it's like the light descending from the crown chakra into the other chakra, and then you're perceiving it. So it's the light that comes through the back of your eyes, the hidden light, the invisible light without heat or form. So yeah, she's very, very esoteric. Even I don't fully not that I'm like a tantric master, I'm definitely not, but I think it's interesting. She definitely has a lot of the most occulted elements to her, because I remember growing up as a kid, and she's very popular, which in Chinese Buddhism, like very, very popular. And she's one of the practices that people have brought over from China and passed down through their families. So I just think that that's really interesting that she is like such a hidden goddess, but she's so prominent and important.
Yeah.
And also in Naruto, interestingly, when he does the hand signs, like the 9 hand seals, I don't know, people will think I'm a retard, but it's real. Like he does these 9 hand seals. So the 9 hand seal invocation is to her at first. So she, like I said, she's the descending goddess of the Vajra. She prepares the inner channels, clears them of obstruction, so then the Vajra energy can descend. But when he does the hand seals, one of them is called the boar, one of them's called the lion, one of them's called the scorpion. So there is an interesting kind of like element of like mixing inner outer secret, like you're doing an external hand sign, you're visualizing the image, and you're doing some kind of magic secretly at the same time. So it's all of those things hitting the moment of sadhana, like doing it all and everything's clicking together. Because as you know, it doesn't always click together. But anyways, yeah, I'm done. We can move on to the last one. So I just thought these were 2 super fascinating concepts. Again, you have the pig-headed, boar-headed goddess.
Yeah.
And she would stand above Chokma, the red one, on the left side. And because the goddess at Gavura and the goddess at Chokma are both subsidiary goddesses in her mandala. So the crane and the crow face are both dakinis in her mandala.
Goddamn crane.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, and look, what does this look like that we're looking at? Upside down U's.
No, I agree.
I believe it or not, as silly as it sounds, I even think this symbol is used on the back of the wagon that the Mormons use. The Mormon symbol.
Oh, like I've listened to all your Mormon series. They're definitely, and I listened to Heidi talk about it. And I mean, on not just your show, but other shows. And definitely it's so magical.
I think so.
I think every single thing that they believe that they do, and I'm not even saying that in the pejorative necessarily, it just is.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of fact, and everything is
its conception was due to occultism, you know.
Yeah, 100%. And the whole thing is everything, every little motion, everything that they believe. I mean, obviously they warp it into their own ideological whatever, but yeah, no, you're totally right. And so I just think that that's interesting. But when Shakti arises as the boar face that's red, so she's very, very important in Buddhism. She's called Vajravarahi, so the adamantine sow. And she controls the chakra of Shiva, so the 5 gross elements: fire, earth, wind, and water, and consciousness or void. So it can be either or, depending if you're Buddhist or Shakta Tantra. So she wields that, so her power is overwhelming strength and transmutation of matter. And I thought you'd like this because you talk about Hathor sometimes.
Yeah.
And she's on the bull, or this is the buffalo, but this is the buffalo of death. Or the buffalo demon. You could also say it's the buffalo demon that she has to slay, or it's the buffalo mount of Yama, who is the god of death.
She is even associated, with fire, according to Libra Rush.
So she's definitely fire. Yeah. She's definitely like all of the elements, but she's definitely like very ferocious. She's screeching. She's covered in blood. That's the idea. It's just extremely.
Well, they had to get her drunk to stop killing people, technically.
I mean, that's
how the tale goes. They filled up a thing of wine, and she thought it was blood because she was like in some bloodlust, killing Farah. And she got drunk on the wine and chilled the fuck out.
So I think that's really interesting, and also goes along with the sow's head, because the sow is ignorance. When she finally conquers ignorance, she cuts the head off the sow, places it upon her own head.
Wow.
So it's not like her head is necessarily a sow, but she places the pig's head upon her own to show she has conquered it.
It's like the fucking original Leatherface over here.
Yeah.
Fucking skinwalking.
She does accept Pashubali, so that is very interesting. She does accept animal sacrifice, but obviously in a Buddhist way we don't do that. But she does always accept fish. So fish have a very, very, very important meaning in Buddhism. Usually you give them a gilded fish, a golden fish. Even I have a couple of them. So you give them as an offering because the fish swims through matter. The fish swims through the upward stream. So kind of like how a boar goes through the three worlds, just like we saw in the other image.
I think that's why you have one fish going one way and one fish going the other way.
Yes, exactly. It's ascending and descending, and that's her specialty. So in one way of thinking, when the little girl who's riding the corpse cart flies all the way down to the lowest hell, she crashes because there's nowhere else to go. So then where is the boar? The boar then must climb up the Chipolithic tree all the way, arise at Malkuth or Netzach, depending on your perspective. And she fully is a complete mother in that sphere. But then she also clears the dragon, so that means that she can arise in every sphere. She can clear the ignorance that arises as a sin in every sphere. And interestingly, in Buddhism, a lot of the sexual craziness and the weirdness that we have now, that is more associated with the sin of ignorance than the sin of lust.
Yes. I think you're right with the ignorance.
So that's really interesting. So I just thought as a red pillar goddess, she's kind of interesting, and she kind of has like that supernal triad also element with Vajrayogini at the top. It's like the very secret practice, but because red is the Rajas, but the red of Vajrayogini is not really red, it's really gold. So I think that's very interesting.
Well, the connection to the black is going to take you to the supernal triad at that point too.
100%. And then you have my other favorite, Sangdong Ma. So her Shakta Tantra name is Pratanya Gira or Naram Simhi, but I'm going to use the Tibetan name because that's easier for me. So Sangdong Ma is the lion-faced Dakini. So she is the apotheosis of all the left-handed texts. So just the texts, not the mantras or not the practices, maybe the practices too. But so she stands upon Binah, but like totally on top of Binah. Like she's above it. She's above Kali even. And when she raises her other foot, so she's standing on the Mara, the poison of wrath. So the poison of just like ferocious anger. And her power is the transmutation of tamas into Vajra energy. So what she does is she eats the sorcerers on her pillar, and she then spits them back out into lightning down the tree. So they fall back down. So that's her idea. And that's why she's invoked, is because
she's grounded at that point.
Yes, exactly. So she eats all the bullshit, basically, and she spits it back out. And also, interestingly, when she roars, so she could also be said to be the time of silence, because her roar shakes the stars, so the stars then start falling because they start dying and they bleed red. But the roar is so loud that it kind of pervades all the universe, all the multiverse. So it's not necessarily a sound, it's more of a vibration. So that's what I mean by time of silence. Like it's so loud that we can't actually hear it.
Yeah. Again, like you were saying, how you can you can suck it up or spit it out. Again, if that's your optic nerve, that's exactly what I was saying before. Neither you're going out of it or going back in.
100%. And I just think it's interesting because she is also in Shakta Tantra. She's a very left-handed, accepts Pashubali kind of goddess. In Buddhism, she's a much more, she's not chill, but she is more, she doesn't care. She's totally non-dual. She's totally away from the world. The world is lacking in color, you could say, where she is. And she also is kind of outside of time, but she's kind of aware of time at the same, in the same space. But she, she's kind of outside of it as well. So she's really good for people who are very angry. And like a lot of Western magicians really like her because she has that power of people send curses or spirit against you. She protects you from that. That's her that's her specialty.
Very nice. All right. Anything else on this one?
Unless you have anything.
No, you have one more, correct?
I just thought we'd do this one for fun because it's the god of war, but he's not really the god of war. He's like, you can see he's standing atop of the hexagram.
Yeah, I was going to say standing on top of it. Yeah. That is interesting.
And he has the colors. The pink is the color of creation, right? Because the pink is the meeting of the red and the white, expanding outward, exploding, you could say. So he really represents the tools of mankind, our kind of ingenuity. So he holds the spear, but it's not really a spear. If you see, it's more like it's like more of a key. And you can see even in his background image, like that pink ribbon, there are 6 seals inside of that pink ribbon, and he's standing on the 7th seal. It's right by his feet. And if you count the pillars in this image, there's actually 4 pillars. Because there's the 2 candlesticks and then the 2 pillars at the back. And but he's also expanding. But when he's in this form, he's contained, totally contained. So he represents kind of the seal on the abyss, because I told you in Buddhism, he is the power to conquer the abyss, defend the fortress, rectify the life force. But just like that, he can also be used for both negative and positive things. Like it can go either way. He's really the only male god who's beyond convention in that way. His left-handed practices are pure destruction. His right-handed practices are pure destruction. So, or chaos, or just change.
Yeah.
So there's a really interesting association with the peacock and like the Yazidi god.
Male energy again too, in a sense.
Yes. And also like it's very eye-like, right? Yes. And it also is said the peacock's tail is said to rebuke serpents, to rebuke the dragon. So it wards off poisons, wards off snake bites. So that's also very interesting, I think. I just think that what he's saying is that it can go either way. It's up to us to choose how we use technology, how we use, right? How we use magic, how we use all the things, like all the things, everything that we interact with really is him and the dragon in some kind of dialogue.
Well, again, like even if this has like Tiferet type of vibes to it, to me, I think it does, especially with the 6 seals.
You're totally right.
Like in my opinion, like once you have experienced magic and like maybe you kind of come back towards Tiferet, I think at that point you're even going to be given the option of what kind of person you're going to be now with this knowledge as well.
You're right.
There's going to be a choice that person's going to make.
No, you're right. And sometimes you'll see him in different kinds of configurations where he's with Ganesh, and then he's also with his third brother. And the third brother is like a golden dome. So you'll think of like there's one of the mosques in Mecca has a golden dome, and then so it looks a lot like his brother. The Ganesh is the king of the kingdom. He's the god of war. So the king of the kingdom has to give offerings to the god of war to expand his kingdom, because you cannot expand your kingdom without war. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
So the tighter and stronger you keep your kingdom, the more fortified the fortress will be.
The queen sits home and keeps everything in form, and the king goes out and expands the energy. Exactly.
So yeah, that's basically it. And I just think like, he's a totally like good, he's like a very, very important practice in Buddhism, and he's not as practiced in Shakta Tantra, although people who know what the fuck they're doing, they know who he is. No, because there's people who don't know and just will talk about it. But I've heard like there's a Bengali tantric. His name's Rajarshi Nandi. He knows. Like I've seen him post it on Twitter. He's like, this is very important. He doesn't talk about it, but he says like this is really important, and you can see there's something really important here. There's something very energetic here, very like fission or fusion like here. They're very like energetic. It's just like extremely powerful, just like our phones, just like, technology. And so he is the god of locks and logic and keys. So, what do we unlock? What do we do with that knowledge? What do we do with those tools? Do we open the seal, or do we keep it locked and keep it like contained? Is he a servant for man, or is he a servant for something else? I just think that's interesting. Yeah. I just think people can think about that. Because where he's the formation of the synthesis between Shiva and Shakti. He's them meeting in union, and then he's born. He's created. But I will say in Shakti Tantra, they don't marry him to the Diamond Thunder daughter. So in Buddhism, that is the innovation, is that they marry him to the daughter, and then a new kind of aeon can be produced. A new kind of yuga can happen.
Very good, man. Very good.
Sorry, I know we went on a really long time, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, no. Thank you. I mean, the series is over, so, I mean, I wasn't going to drag this out into another episode. Just, you know what it is?
No,
it is what it is.
100%.
Yeah, no, I think this was great. I mean, and, it was long because I just thought there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to add to it as well, so.
No, I love it. The dialogue is dialectic, so that makes it magical.
Yeah, no, I really, really enjoyed this series and enjoyed this episode especially too, because it just seemed like the artwork just showed so much like other stuff that was just like, wow, So yeah, man, I appreciate you. I appreciate, again, like what I said, the time spent. That's what's up. You really, you laid it out for us, so I really appreciate it, my man.
Well, I tried to do my best. Obviously, I'm imperfect.
We all are, right?
I really do my best. I try not to, I don't say everything because I don't think it's appropriate to always say everything. I can't say everything, but I think I try and say pack as much in as I can.
Of course, no. That series I think was great. Thank you for real. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
It was really cool to do on your show, and full circle, right?
Yeah. And let everybody know again before we wrap this up where they can find your stuff.
Sure. So I'm on Twitter, Wukong Reborn, WUKONG Reborn, and Insta Threshold Saints, one word. I'm usually on Subconscious Realms. I will have my own RSS feed coming up. And I was just on Meta Mindcast with Robbie Marks, and I have an episode coming up on Here Comes the Backlash with DJ Poolhouse. So, I don't know when this will come out, but you can always go back and listen to those because I'm sure they'll be good episodes too.
Yeah. Definitely go check out that stuff and all the other, the stuff that he's worked on. And November 15th, this will first part 1 will drop. So.
Oh, awesome! Yeah. Right near my birthday. Okay.
Oh, perfect. All right, there we go. I wasn't even trying. Awesome. So thank you very much. I appreciate the time and all the knowledge and all your experience and everything that you covered on this show. And that is the end of another Occult Reject series, Tantra and Qabalah. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.